उन्होंने कहा था यही समय है, सही समय है। ये समय क्यों है? 2013 में जुलाई से अगस्त अगर आप रिसर्च करें, you will find that India was looking at the IMF to bail us out because we had only 6 months of reserve left. क्या वो सही समय था? Why am I today of the opinion that yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai? Let me give you a small understanding of why I think it, and then you tell me whether I'm correct or wrong. 2013-14 में unemployment was at 4.9%. Today, we are at 4%. That is after a pandemic. I'm giving you a comparative of a time when there was no pandemic, when there was no war situation in the world, and everything was hunky-dory, and that is why we were known as a part of this very fragile group called the Fragile Five. What is the Fragile Five? Does anybody know it? The Fragile Five is how Morgan Stanley projected us. And Morgan Stanley projected India as the Fragile Five because our country at that time was heavily dependent on unreliable foreign investments. Our own currency had lost a lot of its value against other currencies in the world. We also had the slowest growth rate ever. And the reasons why we were called a story altogether. There was a political inability to find solutions. Today, Gayatri spoke about 27 साल से जंग चल रही थी कि रिजर्वेशन लेकर आइए. जो लोग महिला आरक्षण के बिल को 2008 का ड्राफ्ट पढ़ेंगे, आपके ध्यान में आएगा कि जो यूपीए की सरकार ने प्रपोज किया था, उसमें उन्होंने पेज नंबर 2 क्लॉज 2B क्लॉज 3B में साफ लिखा था कि औरतों को थर्ड इलेक्शन में मतलब 15वें साल में रिजर्वेशन नहीं मिलेगा. रिजर्वेशन देश में कैसे मिलेगा वो भी व्यवस्था यूपीए के प्रपोजल में नहीं लिखी हुई थी, which means it was political posturing and the political inability to give solutions. There was policy paralysis. Is there anybody in this house who is from Mumbai? I've lived 20 years of my life in that city. When we had terrorists attack the Taj, all of you can Google this and see. For 12 hours, our commandos were not given directions to go and rescue people who were being gunned down by Pakistani terrorists. So when we talk about paralysis, it was not only paralysis on paper, it was paralysis in action. At that time, we had a home minister who knew that the media is coming to take interviews and kept changing clothes just so that they look presentable. And that person did not give orders for the terrorists to be handled in one of the greatest attacks on Indian soil by so-called non-state actors who were activated by people from across the border. This is the situation then. हाई इन्फ्लेशन रेट्स आजकल बहुत लोग देखेंगे. मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ, कुछ लोगों ने कहा था कि मैं वीडियोस बहुत देखती हूँ, आई नीड क्लैरिटी. व्हाट वाज द इन्फ्लेशन रेट लाइक बिटवीन 2012 and 2014? Inflation was 9%. Many times double digit. So we had high inflation. The outcomes, our investments had decreased, our exports had reduced. Now, if we go ahead, we came from the fragile five and look at our economic strength today. We are now the fifth strongest economy in the world, and our aspiration is that we will become one of the top 3 economies post 2024. This is not only a political pronouncement, this is a position that is now supported by agencies and organizations that define economic growth of many nations across the world. So how do we do it? आज डिबेट में 2 लोगों ने ये कहा कि व्यवस्थाएं क्या जो अंतिम पंक्ति में अंतिम श्रेणी का व्यक्ति खड़ा है जब तक उसका कल्याण ना हो. Can we truly say that we have come onto a path of being a fully developed nation? आज इस सभागार में चर्चा हुई unorganized labor की. Ms. Chakraborty is here. So we spoke about unorganized labor. What is one of the greatest challenges that those who are a part of unorganized labor face? They don't have medical support. They don't have pension. They don't have pay parity. These are the 3 things. Correct, Ms. Chakraborty? Am I right? Washa, I want to beche ache. Bahu kutta hai. Then we have Digital India. Everybody, like I said, was on a record mode. Ask your faculty members. Was that the situation 15 years ago? Which means everybody who comes from a small town, from a family which is not economically very buoyant, but you can still afford a phone. A smartphone at that. Economic reforms. What is Nari Shakti? I'll take your time to tell you that. Banking reforms, make in India. There are some who are naysayers who say हम में काबिलियत नहीं है, but we say we can make it happen. There's honesty, transparency in governance. We heard Gayatri talk about women-led development. What does that mean? And of course, from space to sports, we now have a defined structure for more and more talent to come through. We are looking at a country which is not only securing its citizens within our borders, but when Russia and Ukraine go to war with each other, our Prime Minister ensures that that war comes to a standstill so that 28,000 Indian students are brought back safely home. So we are securing Indians no matter where you are in the world. And of course, redefining world order. There were a few naysayers who said G20 se hamara kya lena dena. That's 70% of the world's most powerful economies. Can you imagine having a presidency over 70% of the world's strongest economies? And what did you get to the table when you as a country became the president of the G20? That is where women-led development and redefining world order, not only for our country, but women across the world comes into play. As somebody who has hosted the G20 deliberations on gender, let me tell you, I have been a part of the Bali consideration. और जब तक हिंदुस्तान को प्रेसिडेंसी नहीं मिली थी, इन 70% सबकी जो वर्ल्ड की पावरफुल इकोनॉमीज हैं, उसमें महिला की चर्चा साइडलाइन पर होती थी. हिंदुस्तान की वजह से विश्व भर की औरतों का एजेंडा पहली बार मेन टेबल पर आया और G20 के इतिहास में पहली बार विमेन और यंग गर्ल्स के लिए एक वर्किंग ग्रुप बना. इफ वी हैड नॉट इंटरवीन एंड लेड दिस, वी कुड नॉट हैव डन इट फॉर विमेन अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. So welfare to the last mile. I'll go through this in a nutshell. Everything, as I told Himani today, give me empirical evidence. If you look at World Bank reports from the year 2010 onwards to many policy papers up to 2013, बार बार एक्सपर्ट्स ने हमारे देश में ये कहा कि हमारे देश में सैनिटेशन फैसिलिटी ना होने की वजह से जीडीपी पर 6% तक का नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है. जो लोग फाइनेंशियली इसको नहीं स्वीकार करना चाहते, उनसे कहना चाहती हूँ, अगर साल 2013 का IBN 7 का एक डिबेट आप निकाल कर देख लें तो उसमें स्पष्ट रूप से डेटा आया that women who go outside to defecate, what was the percentage of sexual assaults on them? Of all the sexual assaults that were reported in our country, including rape, 43% of them came when women went outside to defecate. Imagine a woman has no access to a toilet, waits for sundown, goes out, and is sexually assaulted because she wanted to either pee or relieve herself. That is what our country faced. And this is the data from 2013. No prime minister in the history of our country, and we've had a female prime minister, ever stood at the ramparts of the Red Fort and said, let's first at least make a toilet for women. It has never happened. Now, those who are mathematically inclined, हर परिवार में कम से कम 4 लोग तो होंगे, पक्का? Is that a base I can take? 44 crore people in our country did not have a toilet to begin their days with. And this is 2014, before Modi became Prime Minister. 44 crore लोगों के पास टॉयलेट नहीं था. क्या वो सही समय था? So Prime Minister Modi says, let's prioritize building a toilet. I happened to be the Minister of Education then, and he said, most of our dropouts are happening after class 8 because girls start their menstrual cycle. They don't have a toilet separately to go to. In 1 year, we built a toilet in every government school in this country, which had never happened in 70 years. So we built toilets not only for 11 crore families, but for 44 crore citizens. How do you empower people in the last mile? हाथ में पैसा चाहिए ना. जो झारखंड से हैं, जो असम से हैं, आप जाकर अपने बड़े बुजुर्गों से पूछिए. एक बैंक का खाता खोलने के लिए मिनिमम डिपॉजिट होना पड़ेगा, घर के कागज होने पड़ेंगे. आप अपनी आइडेंटिफिकेशन तब तक बैंक को प्रूव नहीं करेंगे, तब तक आपको बैंक घुसने ही नहीं देता था. Narendra Modi said, let's make bank accounts happen for every citizen in our country. Bankers went and told him, sir, पैसा नहीं है उनके पास, कागज नहीं है, कैसे करेंगे? The Prime Minister said, मैं guarantor बनूंगा. 50 crore bank accounts were opened. Again, 50 करोड़ लोगों के पास जिंदगी में कभी बैंक का खाता नहीं था. At that time, the opposition said, ये मोदी बैंक अकाउंट खोल के क्या कर लेगा भाई, गरीब है, इनके पास पैसा कहाँ है. Many of you must have heard it. I don't know whether you did. Today, in those 50 crore accounts, poor citizens of our country put in 2,10,000 crore of their own money. But why were the accounts opened? अकाउंट खोला था क्योंकि हमारे देश ने एक प्रधानमंत्री ऐसे भी देखे थे who said very proudly and transparently from Delhi, मैं 1 रुपया भेजता हूँ, गांव में 10 पैसा पहुंचता है. पहली बार हमारे देश में राजीव गांधी जी ने स्वीकार किया 90 पैसे बीच में लोग खा जाते हैं. So what did Prime Minister Modi do? He said, let's open the accounts. And then started sending money from the Indian treasury directly into those bank accounts. Ladies, till now, 28 lakh crore rupees has gone into the bank account of 50 crore plus citizens of our country. Then Prime Minister Modi said, what do the poor want to do with their money? They want to save it either for health, as we discussed with Ms. Chakraborty, or they want pension. They want either insurance, they want pension, they want health, right? Some wanted to do business. Because every child born to a poor family or a middle class, lower middle class family was told, लड़का हो या लड़की नौकरी ढूंढो. क्योंकि बिजनेस करना अमीरों का काम है. बिजनेस करना अमीरों का काम क्यों था? क्योंकि अगर उन्हें बिजनेस शुरू करना है तो कोई बैंक कोलैटरल ही नहीं देगा, बिना कोलैटरल के वो आपको लोन नहीं देगा. सो मोदी सेड, लेट्स मेक बैंक लोन हैपन for those who want to start small businesses. And वो ना घर गिरवी रखे, ना कागज गिरवी रखे, ना अपनी जायदाद गिरवी रखें या सोना गिरवी ना रखें. And 40 crore loans to small businesses were given in our country. And you know, यही समय क्यों सही समय है? Because out of the 40 crore loans that small businesses, रेडी पटरी वाला भी ले रहा था, उसमें से 70% turned out to be women of this country. And you know why this is to be celebrated? 2014 से पहले आप McKinsey की रिपोर्ट उठाओ, HDFC की रिपोर्ट उठाओ, SBI की रिपोर्ट उठाओ, सबने ये कहा कि अगर औरतों को अपना बिजनेस शुरू करना है तो कोई उनको पैसे नहीं देता. And that is when, imagine, मुद्रा योजना was not a gendered योजना. औरतों के लिए नहीं बनी थी, सबके लिए बनी थी जो गरीब हैं. Imagine in a small village, in a slum, in a lower middle class family, a woman sits down, draws up a business plan, goes to a bank, convinces the bank manager that I need this money for my business, then gets the money, and then does her business and repays. You'll be proud, ladies. NPA for females who took loans is less than 3%. We are the best investment possible. We have proven it in this country. And then people said, नहीं छोटे लोन मत दीजिए, 1 crore तक का लोन दीजिए, औरतें छोटे लोन ले लेंगी. Narendra Modi started something called Stand Up India. Up to 1 crore. Guess what? 80% of those who took that loan happened to be the women of our country. For bigger businesses. So you have now Mudra, you have direct transfer, and suddenly, today I had Gayatri say about self-help groups. They are now 9 crore women. 9 crore women in self-help groups. But you know how much money? It's not 3 lakh crores. 9 crore women in our country now under the Modi government manage close to $37 billion annually. And that is the money that's gone straight to them. इसीलिए यही समय है, सही समय है. Now you look at welfare to the last mile, and I've brought women to the center of it because when women have access to resources, they ensure that it's equally distributed. That much as a woman I can guarantee for all women in my country. And then you look at how you reduced poverty in your country. Nobody talks about this. If you look at the number of Indians, and there is empirical evidence by economists, not by government, which says between 2015 and 21, and ladies, do remember that we've seen 2 years of active COVID in between. 13.5 crore people came out of poverty, and multi-dimensional poverty was reduced from 25% to 15%. And these are numbers that can be corroborated by third parties. In fact, I would invite somebody from Miranda who is interested in political economics to do a paper with us. So, let's look at Ujjwala Yojana. Everybody talks about, and most of the memes about me are sitting on a cylinder. So, what is Ujjwala Yojana? We knew through WHO that अगर आप चूल्हा फूंक के खाना पकाते हो, जो धुआं आपकी छाती में घुसता है, that is equivalent to 140 cigarettes. Means a woman is cooking 3 times a day, at least 2 times a day. And that is the amount of smoke she was ingesting every day. So the Prime Minister said, is there anybody in the country who is getting subsidy can help me so that I can help poor women? 1 crore people stood up in our country and told the Prime Minister, we will help you so that you help poor women. 9.6 crore women who never had an LPG connection in their lives got it. So forget about anything else. If you're cooking 30 days a month, do the math. At 140 cigarette smokes a day, those are the lives saved. Now, whoever has worked on issues of violence against women, look at the number of PM Awas. 4 crore homes. We did the math on toilets. Again, if we look at 4 crore homes which will house 4 people per home, what number do we get? 16 crore people never had a home. They now have a home. But the wondrous thing about it is that 50% of those homes are in the name of women. And the other 50% are jointly owned by women. And those who look at issues, and the Gender Lab can possibly reflect on it, when women own property, domestic violence against them decreases. There is again evidence about it. Jal Jeevan Mission. Before 2014, in a country of 140 crore citizens, only 3 crore had a tap access to water. Today, 13 crore plus. And you know how many man hours is saved? 66.6 million hours per day collectively by women in our country, all because they have access to tap water. And this is work in progress. So now let's look at the next one, which is formalization of the digital economy. Everybody who has a phone today, can you imagine somebody in the opposition actually said कि हिंदुस्तानियों को phone से financial transaction नहीं करना आएगा. All of you who use your digital currency today, trying to buy, let's say, sandwich outside Miranda House or Maggie or your coffee or your tea, can you imagine somebody from the opposition, senior gentleman called P. Chidambaram, stood up and told the Prime Minister, क्या देश में कर रहे हो digital? It won't work. हिंदुस्तान को payment करना digitally नहीं आएगा. And now how many of you digitally transact? I wish Mr. Chidambaram was here today. So not only did we formalize segments of our economy digitally, 45,000 crores, like I said, in the stand-up 1 crore loan went to women, people from the SC/ST community. Today, digitally, when we look at GST and how our taxes are paid, 1.6 lakh crore rupees paid monthly. And today, formally, employment, we can actually certify that in the EPFO, which is the Employees Provident Fund organization, we have 6 crore 43 lakh registrations which are new. So, Ms. Chakraborty, when we spoke about opportunity, for the first time in our country now we have a labor code which very significantly says, irrespective of the form of labor, organized or unorganized, there has to be equal pay for equal work. That happened in your government. But let's answer one issue that Ms. Chakraborty today highlighted. 80% of women are in the unorganized sector, is her position. And the challenge is, how do you provide insurance? How do you provide support? That's why the Prime Minister started something called Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana for 1 rupee premium. And I'm sure we can afford 1 rupee. And I'm sure that we can do it as a paid forward. For 12 rupees a year, you get insurance worth 2 lakh rupees in our country today. And under Ayushman Bharat, across 24,000 hospitals in the country, today the poorest of the poor get treatment yearly for 1,300 diseases, including cardiological diseases. They get support of worth 5 lakh rupees. Right? So we are trying to answer challenges even for those who are a part of the unorganized sector through such interventions. But if you look at the Digital India story, we today have 5 lakh common service centers, which give all government schemes and policy and initiatives and money support through digital functional common service centers. And ladies will be happy to know 3 lakh such centers in the country are run only by women in our country. In the poor families, in the most challenged demographical and geographical area, we have women now leading these solutions. So apart from the digital revolution, today we are looked upon as the bright spot. So imagine a country which was looking at a possibility of an IMF loan to bail themselves out in 2013 is today called by that same IMF as the bright spot. That is how far we have come. And why have we come so far? आज हिमानी के वक्तव्य में था पूंजीपति. हमारे देश में हमारी पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम ने रोमांटिसाइज कर दिया था गरीब रहना. हम गरीबी हटाएंगे, हटाए नहीं. और हमारे देश में उसी पॉलिटिकल एंटिटी ने जिसने कहा हम गरीबी हटाएंगे, क्रिमिनलाइज कर दिया इफ यू आर एस्पिरेशनल. अगर तुम एस्पिरेशनल हो, अगर तुम सक्सेसफुल हो, तो तुम पूंजीपति हो. और ये क्यों किया? ताकि लोग हमेशा नीड में रहें और उनके सामने हाथ फैलाते रहें. और मैं इसका अमेठी की प्रतिनिधि के नाते एक उदाहरण देना चाहती हूँ. अमेठी में 3 दशक एक खानदान का राज था, लेकिन अमेठी में पहला सीटी स्कैन मशीन लाने वाली प्रतिनिधि मैं. अमेठी में पहला डायलिसिस सेंटर लाने वाली मैं. अमेठी में पहला फायर स्टेशन बनाने वाली मैं. अमेठी में 80% लोगों के पास टॉयलेट नहीं था. 1,23,000 परिवारों को जीवन में बिजली का पहला कनेक्शन मेरे जनप्रतिनिधि बनने के बाद मिला. That one constituency was symbolic of that politics which wanted people to be always poor and in need. So if you are an aspirational country, you want to do financially well for yourself so that you help yourself, your family and your fellow citizens. Is that a bad ambition to have? I want the house to tell me, is that bad? तो इसीलिए अगर आज आप में से कोई व्यवसाय करना चाहे, तो व्यवसाय की सबसे बड़ी चुनौती ये थी कि आपको लगभग 66,000 लीगल कंप्लायंसेस फॉलो करनी पड़ती. इमेजिन, एक अकेला इंसान अपना व्यवसाय शुरू करना चाहता है एंड दे हैव टू कंप्लाई विद 66,000 कंडीशंस. So how do you make it easier for the common citizen in our country to do business? You reduce those, you decriminalize. आप जानते हैं क्रिमिनल एक्ट में क्या क्या था? अगर आप बॉयलर यहां से वहां कर देंगे तो आपको जेल हो सकती है. So the government decriminalized many such provisions from 183 provisions in 42 central acts, reduced the compliances. एंड स्पेशली नाउ, जो कहते हैं, हमसे पूछा था कि माइनॉरिटी के बारे में क्या कहते हैं. लुक एट दिस पॉइंट. माइनॉरिटी चाहे व्यवसाय की दृष्टि से हो या कम्युनिटी की दृष्टि से हो, वी आर डूइंग बेटर इन प्रोटेक्टिंग द राइट्स ऑफ नॉट ओनली इन्वेस्टर्स बट ऑल्सो कम्युनिटी मेंबर्स. And that is why today, when I talk about Stand Up India, it is the first such economic measure by a government which mandates and directs bank that in every district you have to give people from the SC/ST community who want to start businesses compulsorily a loan up to 1 crore rupees, including women. So we are looking at Yuva Shakti, not only Nari Shakti. We had 350 startups. Can you imagine? 140 crore people with only 350 startups. Today we have over 1 lakh. We have 100 plus unicorns. We have the third largest startup ecosystem. And now what is Gati Shakti? झारखंड से जो लोग हैं, मुंबई से जिन्होंने वास्ता रखा है, आप जानते होंगे कई बार कंप्लेंट्स होती हैं कि फोन की लाइन के लिए भी खोल दिया, पाइपलाइन के लिए भी खोद दिया, ये सब कुछ लोगों ने देखा होगा शायद. सड़क हमेशा खुदी हुई होती है. देखा है? कितने लोगों ने देखा है? फिर बारिश आती है, फिर उसी सड़क के ऊपर ट्रैफिक जैम होता है, फिर लोग फिर परेशान होते हैं. You've seen all that, right? So what is Gati Shakti? Gati Shakti actually geographically through satellite images maps entire geography of your country. 1600 layers of information of your country. अगर MTNL ने कुछ खोदा है तो इसमें पता चलेगा, किसी ने गैस पाइपलाइन डाली है तो इसमें पता चलेगा. So that we conserve our resources and not build on top of something which gets damaged and has to be resurfaced again. So we did Gati Shakti, and this year 10 lakh crores worth of infrastructure in your country is being built and digitally monitored. हमारी मित्र असम से हैं, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बहुत सारे राज्य ऐसे थे जिनका जीवन में कभी ना एयरपोर्ट रहा, ना कभी रेल कनेक्टिविटी रही, ना वहां ब्रिजेस रहे. आज गति शक्ति के माध्यम से द प्राइम मिनिस्टर नोज पर्सनली कहां किस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की दरकार है. वी हैव एडेड 725 metric tons of capacity across all our ports. We have increased our metro service by 368%. और एक जमाना ऐसा था हिंदुस्तान में जब दिन का 3 किलोमीटर का रोड बनता था, आज 21 किलोमीटर बनता है नेशनल हाईवे. बट इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट अर्बन इंडिया. आज अगर आप वापस जाएं, ग्रामीण रोड बन रहा है 91 किलोमीटर्स पर डे पे, and we can actually monitor. So let's go to the monitoring structure. This is what your prime minister sees every day. He will see, जैसे कि ये जम्मू और कटरा का, दिल्ली कटरा का एक्सप्रेसवे है, he will know exactly from where the expressway has to go. He takes meetings called Pragati, which means if he has to do the Jammu Katra expressway, whichever state it goes through, he will convene meetings of all those officers to ask, आज ये सड़क इतनी क्यों नहीं बनी? They say God is in the details. That is how your prime minister works. This is the Delhi Mumbai expressway. That is your Vande Bharat. So banking reforms, I know many people here are feeling very hot under the collar, especially those with long hair. Those who are interested in banking reforms, are there any students of economic? Those who want to do banking reforms, apart from the fact that there is a reduction in NPAs, apart from the fact that you look at the performance where your net profit of your banks has risen by 307%, I'll again contextualize it from a perspective of Amethi. 80% of my population, my constituency, is rural. What do you think is the yearly bank loan the small business person and farmer in my constituency gets? Ladies, as of last year, they received 2,200 crores for doing small businesses. And they paid back. तो जो कहते हैं बैंक सिर्फ पूंजीपति के लिए बनता है, हम जैसे लोग प्रमाण दे सकते हैं कि कैसे एक छोटे से ग्रामीण अंचल में, जनपद में 2200 करोड़ रुपया छोटे से छोटे व्यवसाय के लिए मिलता है. फ्रॉड का जमाना गया, अब जमाना है that if you believe you have the capacity, you can quantify that capacity through a business plan, you pay back, you become friendlier for that bank. Make in India. जो अमेठी लड़ते थे अब नहीं लड़ते हैं. He does not believe in Make in India. There can be naysayers and people on both sides of the divide, both sides of the debate. But is there anybody in this house who says we cannot make it in India? Imagine during the pandemic, India never had a vaccine. There was a noise from the opposition, let's import vaccines. Imagine before the pandemic, पीपीई सूट्स जो आज हर गली नुक्कड़ में आपको मिल जाएंगे, हमारे देश में कभी भी बनते ही नहीं थे, क्योंकि ना मशीन थी, ना रॉ मटेरियल था, ना एक्सपर्टीज थी. इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर्स बंद हो जाते हैं और न्यूयॉर्क में बैठकर विशेषज्ञ कहते हैं कि हिंदुस्तान में 140 करोड़ का देश पस्त हो जाएगा, इनको ना पीपीई बनाना आता है, ना इनके पास दवाइयां हैं. इमेजिन फ्रॉम दैट कंडीशन द प्राइम मिनिस्टर फर्स्ट टेल्स यू, कैन वी कम एंड अप्रिशिएट आवर हेल्थ वर्कर्स. दिया जलाएं, थाली बजाएं, किसको याद है? आप सबने किया ना? कुछ लोगों को लगा रही है क्या है ये थाली बजवा रहे हैं. कितनों को लगा था? कुछ को तो लगा, मैंने देखा. क्यों लगा? Imagine you were cooped up in your house. You were cut off from your community. You are only dependent on digital communication. And suddenly the Prime Minister, the head of your government says, come out, we are 100 crore plus country. Let's stand together no matter where we are and appreciate those who are risking their lives. Ladies, close to 6 million women as Anganwadi, Asha workers, nurses and doctors, while we were at home, were going from house to house collecting samples and delivering food and vaccine. You came out not for the Prime Minister, but for those people. And when you came out, what happened? The scientists in our country said, बाहर की छोड़ो, हम दवा बनाते हैं, हम वैक्सीन बनाते हैं. When you came out in my ministry, I had those who manufacture apparels for H&M, for Gap, for Saks Fifth Avenue. They said, ma'am, टी-शर्ट छोड़ो, फैशन छोड़ो, हमारी मशीनें उपलब्ध हैं, let's make the PPE in India. एक औरत थी फगवाड़ा में, पंजाब से कोई है यहाँ पे? सो फगवाड़ा में एक औरत है, उसके पास रॉ मटेरियल का छोटा सैंपल था. हमने रात को उसको 9:30 बजे फ़ोन किया. हमने कहा मैम ये सैंपल आपके पास आया कहाँ से? उसने कहा मुझे अमेरिका में कोई काम था, बॉर्डर बंद हो गया, मैं सैंपल लेके फंस गई. मैंने कहा मैम वो सैंपल हमको मिल सकता है? उसने कहा बिल्कुल, लेकिन करोगे क्या? आपकी लैब तो कोयम्बटूर में है. हमने लोकल पुलिस भेजी, सैंपल उठाया, पुलिस वाले ने अपने ज़िले से फिर उसको ट्रेन तक पहुंचाया, ट्रेन स्पेशल चलाई, कोयम्बटूर गया. कोयम्बटूर में साइंटिस्ट को लैब में 72 घंटे तक वो टेस्ट कर पाए. बॉर्डर्स बंद हो गए थे. हमने कहा सैंपल ठीक भी हो जाए, मशीन कहाँ है? फिर हमने एक इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट को फ़ोन किया, उनसे कहा साहब आप मशीन दान दे सकते हो, मेरे पास सब्सिडी का पैसा नहीं है. मंत्री कॉलिंग समबडी एंड सेइंग आई डोंट हैव मनी, कैन यू हेल्प? ही सेड किसको दान देना है? मैंने कहा कोई है गुड़गांवा में जो बना सकता है, आप दे दोगे? कहते मशीन का है. मैंने कहा जापान में. कहते जापान से लाओगे कैसे? आई कॉल जयशंकर. ऐसे कैन आई लिफ्ट स्टफ आउट फ्रॉम योर ससुराल विच इज जापान? And I call Hardeep Puri, who was the aviation minister. I said, Hardeep ji, kuch bhi karo, ek plane de do. Can you imagine? So while the scientists were working in that lab, Jaishankar was preparing stuff in Japan. Hardeep Puri was getting me a plane. And the scientists called from Coimbatore and said, done. We called the Phagwara lady back. We said, do you need money? She said, absolutely not. Can you help save lives? I said, absolutely. We got the 30 machines down from Japan in 24 hours, gave it to Gurgaon. They made the first ever PPE suit of your country. And while this was happening, an officer was running between the floors एंड ऐसे तुम क्या कर रहे हो? कहते पीपी तो छोड़ो, मैं तो स्वैब भी बना सकता हूँ. मैंने कहा स्वैब कैसे बनाओगे? चाइना वाज सेलिंग इट टू अस फॉर $1 a swab. ही सेड मुझे जॉनसन एंड जॉनसन का ईयरबड का प्लास्टिक वो डंडी ला दोगे मैम? मैंने कहा हाँ. फिर उसने कहा कि यहाँ पे गुजरात में ये पेट्रोकेमिकल यूनिट में वो वेस्ट पड़ा है, एक्चुअली उससे स्वैब बनता है, वो वेस्ट आ जाएगा? मैंने कहा हाँ. फिर वायरोलॉजी की लैब है पुणे में, वहां तक सैंपल पहुंच जाएगा? मैंने कहा हाँ. लेकिन बनाएगा कौन? पुणे में 2 स्टार्टअप्स है, वो बना देंगे, उनको पैसा नहीं चाहिए, बस रॉ मटेरियल ला दो, दे विल मेक इट फॉर द कंट्री. व्हाट वाज बीइंग इंपोर्टेड फॉर $1 बिकेम 17 पैसे. PP suit that was being available for $2,200 was manufactured in India for $175. And India, which never produced and manufactured PPE suits, became the second largest exporter in just 3 months. And all this while, Economic Times would write every day, प्रधानमंत्री को import करना चाहिए, प्रधानमंत्री को import करना चाहिए, और प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा नहीं, let's make it in India. We made the vaccine in India, but we didn't leave it to us. We sent it to 160 countries. कितने लोगों ने देखा पापुआ न्यू गिनी में प्राइम मिनिस्टर गए तो उनके पैर छुए, उनके हेड ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ने? ऐसे नहीं छुए. हिंदुस्तान तब था जब दुनिया अपने रिसोर्सेज अपने लिए रख रही थी, और भारत ने कहा हम तो खुद को भी प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे और आपको भी प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे. दैट इज व्हाई आई से वी कैन make it in India. India used to import 80% of the toys that you saw in our country. Now we've become the net exporter of toys in our country. That is how we have managed to come thus far, but we have a special government e-marketplace for the small manufacturer. And we have, especially under the Modi government, seen that he says 3% of everything that the government procures has to be made by female entrepreneurs. It is the first ever economic affirmative action in procurement in our country that has happened. In fact, Prime Minister के ऑफिस में जो फ्लास्क मिलता है, वो तमिलनाडु के एक साधारण सा व्यवसाय चलाने वाली महिला मैन्युफैक्चर करके टेंडर से सप्लाई करती है देश के प्रधान सेवक को. एंड यही सही समय क्यों है? I don't know whether I can manage to convince Ms. Chakrabarti or Himani, but I can tell you ये समय सही क्यों है. It is not correct that for 27 years the reservation bill was pending. When the constitution was being drafted, women, especially from Northeast and other states, went to those who drafted the constitution to say कि आप औरतों को आरक्षण दीजिए, क्योंकि आने वाले समय में साधारण परिवार की औरतों को मुश्किल होगी देश में पॉलिटिकली कंट्रीब्यूट करने में. 1971 में 1971 में जेंडर सेल इस पे शायद तवज्जो देना चाहे. हमारे तब की सरकार ने, कांग्रेस की थी, they did a report on the status of women. In 1974, the erstwhile Bharatiya Jansangh, which was the earlier version of the Bharatiya Janata Party, in 1974 we told the then government, please give women a constitutional guarantee that they can get reservations so that they can contribute legislatively. So this is not 27 years old. We've been fighting for it since independence. But there are many who will attract your attention to the ग्लोबल जेंडर गैप इंडेक्स एंड टेल यू हम लोग ग्लोबली अच्छा नहीं कर रहे. मैं आपको बताऊं क्यों नहीं अच्छा कर रहे. जेंडर गैप इंडेक्स does not take into consideration all women who are elected to your panchayat. For them, women in panchayat are not glamorous enough. Gender gap index globally does not take into consideration women who are elected to legislative assemblies, women who are elected to parliament, women who are members of the council of ministers. They only see who's the cabinet minister. The gender economic index does not quantify the economic contribution of the 9 crore women in India's self-help groups. They do not economically quantify women who are a part of the unorganized sector, which is predominantly agrarian in nature. They don't count us, because the minute they start counting us, we start doing better than women across many economies. We have now the first woman from a tribal family as the supreme commander of the Indian Armed Forces. That is why I say, Yahi Samay Hai. So I can go on and on about many things, but I'm also the minister minority, amongst other things. So on two issues, looking at female-based politics. Women in our country from the Muslim community, उनको शादी में 3 बार तलाक बोल दिया जाता था, छोड़ दिया जाता था, और कोई भी पॉलिटिशियन उसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई नहीं करता था, because it's a vote bank you don't want to disturb. Modi said, hell with politics, let's ensure justice. And we brought about a ban on triple talaq. But what is weirder still, I don't think anybody in this house knows. औरतों से कहा जाता था मुस्लिम समुदाय में कि अगर आपको हज करना है तो आपको अपने साथ एक पुरुष को ले जाना ही पड़ेगा. इस्लाम में ऐसा कोई डायरेक्शन नहीं था. नरेंद्र भाई ने कहा अगर ऐसा कोई रिलीजियस डायरेक्शन नहीं है तो आप हिंदुस्तान की औरतों को क्यों कंपेल कर रहे हैं कि वो किसी पुरुष को लेकर जाएं. सो ही सेड, टेक अवे दिस executive compulsion, let women go on their own. And I had the privilege for the first time of facilitating women who went on their own to perform Hajj. For the first time, 4,314 women went alone, performed Hajj, came back home. उनके लिए यही समय है, सही समय है. I do not say that we aspire today to declare ourselves a utopian nation. I say we aspire towards solutions. I'll come back to Himani again. She spoke about Nirbhaya. Himani, I was a parliamentarian then too. If you talk to Nirbhaya's mother, you will find that I was one of the first ones to respond. I have never said this publicly. I'm doing so today for the first time. I was the first one not only to respond to the family, but also the first one who insisted on the death penalty. But I'm also now responsible for the ministry that administers the Nirbhaya Fund. Under public pressure, the Congress party announced the fund in 2013. Did not spend a single rupee. It is publicly available document. When Narendra Bhai came to power, he said, if we have the money, let's spend it. We collaborated with all ministries in the government of India and in state governments. Today, all the fast track courts that you see are 100% funded under that fund. Today, every police station has a women's help desk that is 100% funded by that fund. Today, the CCTV coverage and urban transportation coverage, especially for women, is funded by that fund. Today, in the country, the forensic science labs that you see is funded under that fund. Today, rape kits and evidence kits to protect women is funded under that fund. We have spent close to 7,000 crores and we tell every department, tell us where we can make the lives of women safer. Today, we also encourage more and more women to report crimes. And even if a woman who's a victim of crime has to go from her house to a court to depose, and the court happens to be in another city, for her travel, her stay, her food, we have gone down to the details. We even provide for that. Before the government came into power under Narendra Modi, you spoke about children on the streets. We did not have a law or an administrative structure that computed when a child goes missing. Under the Juvenile Justice Act, now we have that framework. And I can tell you, as the minister in charge, there were 4 lakh kids reported missing, were found in the past 7 to 8 years and returned to their families from those very streets. So you have a government which is looking at issues, and my friend from Manipur wanted to know, from Assam. So I have the numbers for you. I have the numbers which will tell you how the state came to a standstill for 922 days. I have the numbers that tell you how there is illegal infiltration that is trying to destabilize the environment amongst Indian citizens there. But I also want to tell you that people are not without recourse to justice or recourse to the services of the Indian Armed Forces or the Indian Police Service. So the challenge which has been bestowed upon us because of entities, state and non-state from across the border are challenges that we are meeting. But do you see the cacophony as we rise financially in the world? The pressures that come from geopolitics. Those pressures are to ensure that we forever apologetically stand as Indian citizens. They need to come to terms with the citizen of this country who is vehement in their pursuit of a national ambition. So given that, you can be assured of one thing, that you have a government that is vigilant. You have a government that is empathetic. You have a government that seeks to give you solutions. You are a government that is watchful. And you are a government that serves not only who voted for them, but also those who did not agree with them. I know reservation के बिल की चर्चा के वक्त कई लोगों ने कहा ओबीसी को क्यों नहीं दिया, मुस्लिम औरतों को क्यों नहीं दिया. ओवैसी साहब ने कहा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में रिलीजन बेस्ड रिजर्वेशन का कोई प्रावधान ही नहीं है. They raise the ruckus so that the bill does not pass. What stops them to give tickets to Muslim women and OBC women? Nothing. They just wanted to deny us the opportunity that they have denied us for decades. Isiliye, when the Prime Minister says, I will ensure that the bill is implemented, people like me say yes, क्योंकि यही समय है. Your country will see a census and delimitation in the year 2026. And in 2029, ladies, there will be many amongst you who may vie for that position in legislative assemblies and parliament. I can only say this today, given the time that you have given me. I hope I can support many women amongst you to become the legislative leaders of tomorrow. But for those leaders, I ask you to just help me with one thing. How do I conclude? How do I conclude? I need to hear it. How do I conclude? यही समय है. और अगर इस समय को हमने कैप्चर नहीं किया, then we will rue it, not only for our generation, but the generation that is to come. Ms. Chakrabarti, I end with you. There was a beautiful position she took. There was an admission that she takes a position in the debate on the basis of assumptions. I today presented facts. Like I said, I do not declare my country to be a utopian nation, but I declare my nation to have the soul of a civilization that is gender just, to have a vision that is future enabled, and to have a resolve that we work not only for ourselves, but for global good, with a sense of purpose, liberty, and justice. So thank you so much for giving me your time. It's a privilege to be amongst you.
Sahi Samay Hai.